chair now recognizes the gentleman from Colorado, Mr. Tipton, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and appreciate my colleague, Mr. Waltz, bringing up water. Absolutely critical for the western United States. Issue, Mr. Secretary, that we've had an opportunity to be able to visit on before. Noting some of your comments when we're talking about some of the new EPA regulations that are coming forward, being able to create certainty for our farm and ranch community. We have no certainty in the West for our farm and ranch community when it comes to being able to protect a private property right, be it for our ski areas or for our farm and ranch communities as well. As you're well aware, through your department, they put forward rules that were struck down by the court because the department did not follow its own rules, but are still now continuing to pursue a rule. I'd just be curious, how much of your resources are you going to be putting in to develop taking a Fifth Amendment right in the West when it comes to the private property rights of water?
Representative Tipton, you certainly are correct in terms of the litigation, and we understood the court ruling, and we basically pulled that rule, and we started a different process, a more collaborative process. And the directive that we're working on now is not designed to take private property rights at all. It is simply designed to make sure that we continue to have adequate resources for the ski areas that are important and are located in and around our nation's forests.
I appreciate that comment. And for the ski areas, this is a broader issue also for our farm and range community. We do have BLM grazing permits, water rights that have been developed there as well. That being said, we keep hearing about this vague rule that you're mentioning about to be able to create some certainty. However, the Loon Mountain ski area in New Hampshire, are you familiar with that?
I'm not familiar with a specific ski area, but
through your department, as a conditional use of permit, they're requiring them through a forced transfer of their water rights. This is after all of our discussions. So what kind of certainty are we really getting in the West when we're told that a rule is being developed and now we have the Loon Mountain Ski Resort in New Hampshire and it's going to require them to sign over their water rights?
Well, I think that there has been a collaborative process. There have been hearings and public input on this directive, and I'm fairly confident, based on the court ruling and based on what our Forest Service folks understand, that this is not going to be about private water rights. It's going to be about just maintaining and making sure that we can continue to have the snow and the water that we need to make sure those businesses do well and that the forests are properly maintained. We have 166 million visitors that come to our nation's forests every year. We obviously want to make sure that they have adequate...
Absolutely, and I know you're well aware. Chief Tidwell gave us testimony in comments that not once has water been sold off by a ski area, not once. So there is no need for a rule, but again, I'll remind you, you need to take a look at this Loon Mountain. This is contradicting what you're saying you're trying to do right now. Let's move on to some of the Forest Service issues. Is it more expensive to fight a fire than to go in and treat an area?
Most of the time I would say that's probably accurate, yes. Okay.
As you're aware, the Forest Service right now, we've made an amendment to the Farm Bill which was accepted under Section 8305 for the leasing of air tankers. Can you give us an update now that the Farm Bill's been law for, 8 weeks? What kind of progress you've made for the leasing of those air tankers?
We have had some additional planes that have been accepted into our force. We are working through an appeal process on one tanker issue, which we have to continue to work through. We obviously attempted to do this in a quick and speedy way. Concerns were raised about it. We're now in the process of deciding what the next steps are. But we have and will have additional aircraft on site this year. We'll have additional aircraft on site next year because of the transfer of Department of Defense and Coast Guard aircraft to the Forest Service.
Great. Appreciate that. And I would like to be able to touch on these climate hubs. How much are you going to spend on the climate hubs? One's in Colorado.
Well, that's already in the budget. It's not a question of additional resources.
I know. How much is that?
Well, I don't know how much
Well, just out of curiosity, we have something called NOAA. Is this a duplicative process?
No, not at all. Not at all. This is really designed to identify, to work with producers and landowners in each region of the country to identify specifically what they're seeing on the ground, to determine what challenges they are confronting relative to production, and develop technologies and strategies and disseminate best practice information to them so that they can adapt and mitigate to whatever climate challenges they're facing, whether it's drought.
None of that's done by NOAA?
No, well, NOAA is about forecasting, and that obviously is part of it, but NOAA is not in the business of telling farmers that if you plant cover crops, you're going to be able to retain additional water, or if you plant a certain type of cover crop, or if you harvest at a certain time, or if you take certain steps relative to livestock, or you use certain forage. They're not in that business. We're in that business. And so this is designed to basically make sure that we are analyzing and assessing the vulnerabilities of agriculture as it relates to climate, and providing our producers with the very best and latest information on how best to mitigate it that's specific to their location as opposed to some general concept.
This is something we'd like to be able to review with you a little bit more, because I think it is duplicative, and our farm and ranch community probably has a pretty good idea in terms of cover crops and being able to deal with it to begin with.
Gentleman's time has expired.
I yield back. Thank you.
Chair now recognizes